everyone. Myself Dr. Megha, Assistant Professor in School of Legal Studies, K.R. Mangalam University. I welcome you all to the lecture series on Law of Torts and Consumer Protection Laws. Now in this session, we will discuss about different remedies that is provided under torts. So, the tort is a civil wrong which is causing any harm or injury to some person. It is a kind of civil wrong in which a person is suffering civil injury. This word tort is derived from the Latin word tortum, that means twisted or crooked. There are few types of tort that we had already discussed in our previous sessions, like intentional torts like assault, battery, false imprisonment and defamation. Then we discussed also about negligence, in which there is a particular standard of care that a person has to take, but he fails to take that standard of care. Then strict liability concept, in which if a person is keeping some hazardous good on its land and if that thing escapes and cause injury to some person, then that person would be held strictly liable. And the concept of absolute liability, in which if the person is keeping any hazardous thing on his land and that hazardous thing is causing injury or damage to somebody else, then that person would be liable absolutely for the same. Now, what is the foundation of remedies? Why these remedies are necessary in the tort? So, two primary functions are there for the remedies. First one, that it is a kind of deterrent for the wrongful conduct that establishes accountability for the person. And on the second hand, it is for compensating the injured party and try to restore them to their original position. So, we can say the purpose of providing remedy is to make victim whole. That means to restore that person to his original position by providing remedies, by providing compensation, damages for any wrong that has occurred to him. Then it is a kind of deterrence, it is a kind of creating fear in the mind of other person also, so that they would be refrain from conducting any wrongful act. Then it is a kind of tailored solution, that is providing flexible remedies for particular circumstances, not only the one kind of remedy for each and every type of circumstance, and to provide to maintain social order by upholding the justice. Now, in law of tort, there are two type of remedies. First one is judicial remedy, that is provided by court of law, and another one is extrajudicial remedies that a person can use by their own hand. They can avail it by themselves. So, this is why it is called extrajudicial remedies. So, first we will deal with judicial remedies. There are three types of judicial remedies: damages, injunction and specific restitution of property. Let us discuss them one by one. So, damages we can say is in the form of monetary compensation. This is the common remedy in tort, that is providing monetary compensations to the person if he has suffered any kind of loss, and that is designed to put the injured party in the position they would have been in the condition when the tort had not happened. So, the word damages, one more thing, that this word damages should not be confused with the plural of the word damage that we had already discussed in our previous sessions also, that this word damage and damages keep a different meaning. Damage, which is a harm or injury, whereas damages is in the form of monetary compensation. Then as per the statement given by Justice Benjamin Cardozo, the remedy should be commensurate to the right which has been invaded, which means monetary damages are the primary method for providing justice to the victim of tort. This the law recognizes that while money cannot undo harm, it is quite obvious that a harm cannot be undone by only providing money, but somehow it may provide some mean of relief to the victim of tort. So, the damages are of few types. First one is nominal damage. The nominal damages are the damages where a small amount of money is paid to the victim of tort. So, that is the case where the plaintiff has suffered a legal injury, but he has not actually suffered any substantial harm. So, these damages are provided in the case of injuria sine damnum, which means injury without damages. Although there is injury, although there are infringement of legal rights, but the person has not suffered actual damage. So, in these type of cases, nominal damages are to be provided. For example, in the case of Ashby versus White, where the returning officer wrongfully disallowed a registered elector to vote in a general election, but it was noted that the elector had not suffered any kind of injury, and the candidate for which he wanted to vote actually won that election. So, we can see that that person has not suffered any substantial damage, but his right to give vote was infringed, and that is why the court has awarded him nominal damages. Then second type of damages is contemptuous damage. If the right of the plaintiff is violated, but the suit brought by the plaintiff of such a trivial nature that it is the only wastage of time of the court. So, we can say that in such kind of cases where the plaintiff right is violated, but if he tries to bring any kind of suit, that will be considered just only the wastage of the time of the court, and in that situation court awards a very small, very small amount to the plaintiff as damages. So, now the question is, what is the difference between nominal damage and this kind of damage? So, the difference is that in nominal damage the plaintiff suffers no actual loss, and in this kind of damages the plaintiff suffers actual damage, but that damage is very small. So, again in nominal damage rights are infringed, but no actual damage is there, but in contemptuous damage, damage is still there, but that is a very small nature that court don't go for the trial or suit hearing, but only award very small damages in this case. Then third one is compensatory damage, compensatory damages. Compensatory damages are awarded to help the plaintiff to reach his original position. So, it is as equivalent as that of damage that the person has suffered. Then comes aggravated damages. This is the we can say is an aggravated form of damages which are awarded for the extra harm which is caused to the plaintiff, which cannot be compensated by compensatory damages. So, compensatory damages are equivalent to the damage that is suffered by the plaintiff, and if he suffered any extra loss, extra harm, kind of mental trauma, then for that situation aggravated damages are to be given to the plaintiff. For example, A makes false claim against B, as a result of which B is standing in the society is greatly affected. He was defamed by A because of his false statement, and actually he made that statement with the intention to ridicule that plaintiff in the eyes of the people. So, here in this case court can award B aggravated damages for the humiliation and loss of confidence because of the statement that is made by A. So, this is how the court decides that what could be the aggravated form of injury and what could be awarded with only compensatory damages. Then there is punitive damages. So, these damages, as the name is suggesting, is a kind of punishment, exemplary form of damage, and the purpose of these damages is to punish the defendant and to create a deterrence in the society so that other people will refrain from committing the same act as he did. Then we can further break down these damages into spatial and general damages. Spatial damage, that is quantifiable economic losses that can be calculated with precision. For example, medical bills, future treatment cost, loss of wages, diminished earning capacity, uh, property repair or replacement cost, and other out of pocket expenses that is directly tied to the injury. Now, second one is general damage, that is non-economic losses and that cannot be calculated, like pain and suffering. We cannot calculate pain and suffering. Then we cannot calculate emotional distress, then loss of enjoyment of life, loss of companionship, then disfigurement or permanent disability. These are certain things which cannot be counted mathematically. So, in this general damages, as per the situation, as per the by taking into consideration aggravated circumstances, then court award general damages. But if it can be calculated as medical expenses or wages or what kind of repairment is done to the property, in that situation spatial damages are to be given. The mitigation principle is to be taken into consideration while fixing spatial damages or general damages. So, plaintiffs have a duty to take reasonable steps. It is not like that plaintiff himself is making circumstances so aggravated and then claiming the compensation in return that I have suffered so much loss, then I should be paid aggravated circumstances. No. The plaintiff first of all has to make all the possible efforts to minimize their losses after an injury. If he fails to do so, then the amount may be reduced. Then how the damages are to be calculated? Again, economic damages calculation and non-economic damages calculation. So, as far as if the damages are of economic nature like past medical expenses, then totaling all the bills related to injury, this is how the calculation can be done while awarding the damages. Future medical cost, that what would be future medical cost, expert advice, he has to take expert advice on any kind of anticipated treatment, then he has to go for some medical test, that will be included. Then loss of wages, that if he has missed his work time during that treatment or during that span of time in which he has suffered that injury, then that will be calculated. Then loss of earning capacity, if his future earning capacity has been diminished and he will not be able to do the same work in the future also, that will again be taken into consideration while calculating the damages. And property damage, if property was damaged by the defendant of the plaintiff, then whatever cost he has incurred, the plaintiff has incurred to repair that property on the fair market value, that shall be taken into consideration. Then for non-economic damages, because here it is not quite possible to ascertain that what is the actual cost, then certain criteria are to be taken into consideration like per diem method, in which that means assigning daily value to the suffering and multiplying by the duration. Then court can exercise multiplier method, that is using economic damages as base and then multiplying by factor. Then comparable verdict analysis, examining similar cases with the previous decided cases, and jury discretion. It is totally up to the discretion of the court when we are not having certain things in our hand to decide what kind of damages are to be given, like spatial damages. So, in that situation, by taking into consideration the circumstances, jury can decide that okay, this much amount is to be given in this particular situation. Then proving damages, okay, it is there is a term that called burden of proof. So, whenever a civil case comes in, it is the plaintiff who is asking for some claim. So, when a plaintiff is asking for the remedy, he has to prove certain things for asking for damages and establishing the liability on the defendant. And first of all is he has to establish the cause of that act that has been committed by the defendant. So, he has to demonstrate the direct link between the defendant's action and plaintiff's injury. If there is no direct link, then defendant cannot be made liable and he cannot claim any remedy. Then he has to prove the document losses. He has to provide evidence of all claimed damages through medical records, then bills he has incurred, receipts, testimonies and financial statements. Then he has to provide reasonable certainty to prove damage. He has to prove that damage with reasonable certainty. If there are doubt, if there are some ambiguity, then it may lead to the situation where his claim for damages may be lowered down. Then let us move to the second form of judicial remedy, that is injunction, which is also called equitable remedies. So, injunction is that kind of equitable remedy that is granted at the discretion of the court. It is the one in which court, instead of compensating the aggrieved party, asks the defendant to perform his part of promise. So, in this type of judicial remedy, court does not give any kind of compensation or monetary relief, but on the contrary, the court asks the defendant to perform his part of promise to complete that thing or to provide the relief to the plaintiff. So, if a court asks a person to not to continue to do certain thing or ask to do certain thing, that will be considered as injunction. Injunction are there are few types of injunction like temporary injunction. So, that is for the specific time, it is not for a perpetual time period. So, when time period is fixed for the injunction that you have to do this particular thing for this period of time, this is called temporary injunction, and generally it is granted before the case has been heard on merit. Then comes permanent injunction, which is also called perpetual injunction. So, it is kind of final order that is issued after the full consideration of the case, and it may be provided when after appeal have been concluded. Then move to the third form of remedy, judicial remedy, that is specific restitution of the property. Restitution means to restore the property, to restore the goods back to the owner of the goods. So, when a person is wrongfully dispossessed of his property or goods, he is entitled for the restoration of the property, and court may order the defendant to restore that property to the plaintiff, which actually is of the plaintiff. Restitutionary remedies like replavin, that means legal action to recover wrongfully taken personal property. It may be by returning, it may be by often used to unique or irrepressible items, or that may include damages for temporary loss of use. Then second one is ejectment. It is the legal process to remove wrongful occupants from the real property. Then property liens, lien means to seize the property. So, sometimes court authorized claims against defendant's property. It may be by, it is for securing the payment for the judgment or prevents transfer of property, or it may lead to forced sale if judgment is unpaid. Then come to extrajudicial remedies in tort. So, there are mainly 5 types of extrajudicial remedies. First one is expulsion of trespasser. If a person is entering into the property of somebody else without that person's permission, that may amount to trespass, and this is the remedy that is there with the plaintiff, the actual owner of the plaintiff, the possessor of the property, that he may use reasonable force to expel the defendant from his property. In this, he is not required to take the help of the court, he may use reasonable force. If the force is reasonable, then that would not amount to any kind of wrong or civil wrong or a crime. Then if he is not able to expel the trespasser from that land, he may use reasonable force to make re-entry on the land. So, in this case, the owner of the property can remove the trespasser along with he can re-enter into his property again by using a reasonable amount of force. If this force is not reasonable, then plaintiff can also put himself into some in bad situation. Then recaption of goods. In this case, the owner of good is entitled to recapture his or her goods from any person whose unlawful possession they are in. Again, he can use reasonable force to recapture his goods from the unlawful possession of the defendant. Then its abatement. Abatement basically is utilized in the case of nuisance. Nuisance where the person is interfering in the right of enjoyment of somebody else. It may be private, it may be public. So, abatement can be used by the plaintiff in private and public nuisance, in which he can remove the object that is causing the nuisance. And the last one is distress damage feasant. In this case, a person's cattle or other beast that move to another's property and his crops are spoiled, the owner of the property is entitled to take possession of the beast until he is compensated for the loss suffered by him. That is called distress damage feasant. He can seize the beast, he can seize the cattle unless and until the defendant compensate plaintiff for the loss that is caused by the beast or cattle while entered into his land. So, these are few extrajudicial remedies. So, if we compare among judicial remedies and extrajudicial remedies, that the basic difference between judicial remedy and extrajudicial is that judicial, that is a relief provided through the court system, and this kind of remedy requires filing of a lawsuit and following the procedural rules. And extrajudicial remedies, that is a kind of self-help measure that is taken without court intervention. It does not require any kind of filing of suit, but the condition is plaintiff has to stay within his legal boundaries to avoid becoming the tortfeasor himself. He cannot use extra force, he cannot use unreasonable force and putting himself into the dangerous situation. Then the rise of alternative dispute resolution in tort claims. In these days, ADR methods are highly used also in the tortious claims. For example, negotiation, which means direct settlement discussions between parties without any intervention of third party. Then it's mediation, which is a third party facilitation where voluntary settlement can be reached out by the parties. And then arbitration, which is a private judge like arbitrator hears evidences and issues and then provides judgment. So, the key takeaways of this session for the remedies that we have all discussed, that remedy is an essence for providing the relief to the plaintiff. It may be judicial, it may be extrajudicial. If the party wants to go for the judicial remedies, they can ask for the damages, they can ask for the injunctions, they can ask for the restitution of property. And if they do not want to go for the judicial remedy, if the tort is very small, they can bring back that thing into that original position, then they can avail the extrajudicial remedies. So, the remedy is kind of purpose driven, that aim to provide relief to the victim, deter the wrongdoers and maintain the social order. The remedies can be flexible and it may be varied according to the circumstances. It may be damages in one situation, it may be injunction in another situation. The system is ever evolving, as we discussed that now the ADR methods are being used, and then it is a kind of understanding that is available remedies empower individual to protect their rights. If remedies are not there, then people will not be able to go for the remedies. So, this is all for this session. Thank you so much.